Hello friends, it's MoNaCo here, coming to you with our fourth notes video for our periodic table unit. We're going to talk today about properties of metals versus non-metals, okay? I want you to understand that there's different properties for both the metals and the non-metals, what those are, and how there's a certain group of elements that are kind of in between. As always, remember, sign up for text alerts with that message at MoNaCo P for my classes. There is an Easter egg in this video, but it is not to sign up for the text alerts. It's later on. I want you to listen and pay attention and figure out what MoNaCo's favorite metalloid is. Think about that. That's your Easter egg. Answer that question to me in class, and you got yourself a little bonus. Okay, so our lead in today, what are the properties of metals and why are they important? Well, metals are pretty obvious, okay? Metals are those shiny, silver, metallic things that are all around us. Non-metals are the other things that are not shiny and silver. These properties make metals more useful than non-metals for certain tasks and vice versa. You wouldn't want to make a cooking pot out of a non-metal like sulfur or wood because it wouldn't really do the job properly. So metals have certain properties, non-metals have other different properties, which makes them suitable for certain tasks. If you want to, and I strongly encourage you to teach your little self, these are just Google searches for metals, non-metals, and metalloids, that middle in-between group. Image searches are always great options, okay? You usually get a periodic table when you do your image searches, when you search on those words. It tells you a lot of that information about what you might look for. So I'm encouraging you to go that extra mile. You're watching my videos, why not do some Google searches on some of the key terms if you feel that you don't understand something very specific. So let's get on with it though. Got some notes to take today. So first of all, periodic table can be keyed for many things. There's a staircase here. And first of all, the groups that we call the metals make up most of the table. On the left of or below the staircase, except for what we call hydrogen, okay? These are metals. Hydrogen's up on the top left corner here, usually floats above our periodic tables. It's on the left side, but we don't actually call it a metal. All of the metals are solids except for mercury. Okay, mercury is a liquid. It is down here in the periodic table. So that one's a liquid. There's only two elements that are liquid, and mercury is the only one that's a metal. The other one that's liquid is bromine, and it's a nonmetal. They must have all four properties of a metal in order to be a metal. Malleable, that's a fancy name for being bendable. Hammer it or mold it into sheets. Ductile, that is a fancy word for being to be able to pull into a wire, right? Wire is made out of metal. How did it happen? Well, it's ductile. It got pulled into a wire. They have a luster. Luster is a term from earth science. Luster, you look for a metallic luster. If it's shiny and silver, well, that's metallic. If it's dull, that's non-metallic. Also, all metals are good conductors. They allow heat and electricity to flow through them. For example, you would want to make a cooking pot out of metal, not non-metal, because it would allow the food to heat up. This is due to what we call a sea of mobile valence electrons. The electrons that are in a metal, the valence ones, they like to be able to move around freely. They float around from atom to atom. So this is the reason why heat and electricity are conducted, is because of that sea of mobile valence electrons. Also, metal like to lose electrons to form positive or cation ions. Okay, so that is what metals do. These are the properties of them. You gotta know them. All right, Easter eggs not yet. Non-metals is the opposites of the metals. So if you're going to memorize one, the opposite is for the non-metals. Non-metals are on the right of or above the staircase on the periodic table. In our periodic tables, it's very clearly written in a nice thick black line. Okay, so the non-metals are up here, and then the metals are always over here. Okay, on our periodic tables. They're mostly gases and solids at STP. STP means standard temperature and pressure, except for bromine, as I mentioned, which is a liquid. They are not malleable, so you can't bend a non-metal because they're gases or they're brittle. They will crack, shatter, and crumble. They do not have a luster. They lack it, or we would say it's non-metallic or dull. Okay, dull luster, does not shine. They are non or poor conductors, meaning they will conduct heat, but they don't do it very well. Okay, it's kind of like why you'd put a pot holder on. A pot holder is made out of a non-metal, so when you grab that hot pot on the stove, the heat does not transfer easily into your hand to get you burned. Okay? Nonmetals generally like to gain electrons and form negative or anions. They may have one or zero properties of a metal. So nonmetals could have one or none of the properties of a metal, depending. Generally speaking, they have zero. Okay? So now we're into my favorites. These are the bestest. The metalloids, one in particular, makes this video possible. They have two properties of a metal, meaning they like to be either malleable or conduct heat, but they might be brittle, or they don't conduct heat very well. So metalloids kind of like walk the line of this staircase. As you can see here, there's 6 or 7 of them. B for boron, S for silicon, Ge for germanium, As for arsenic, Sb for, I forget what Sb is, antimony? Anyways, Te for tellurium, and Po, okay? The big important ones are these 4. And of those 4, my favorite is silicon, because silicon allows computer chips to exist. So you tell me what my favorite metalloid is and why, then I will give you your little Easter egg prize. They're found along the staircase between metals and nonmetals, except for aluminum. Aluminum is not a metalloid. It is actually a metal. Okay? Aluminum can, pretty metallic. Here's our practice. Your practice should be completed after watching this video. You can use the notes to complete it. About 8 questions. In addition, the practice packet has pages 6, 7, 12, and 14 that you should be able to do now that you know that the properties of the metals and nonmetals and the metalloids. Remember to remind me of what my favorite metalloid is for your bonus. Thanks all.